A few days ago, I saw an interesting thread on Twitter. What do you think gets you from 1700 to 1800, 18 to 19, 19 to 20, 20 to 2100 MR? If you're not at these MR ranges, I don't care what you have to say. Now, this is a question that I get asked a lot on stream. Like, what separates players at the higher MR thresholds? So I guess to answer the question of like how these players get split up by MR is everything. Like, it's difficult to give universal answers for these kinds of questions because every single player has different strengths and weaknesses and good and bad habits. But I thought about this tweet a little bit and I decided to give 5 examples that I think are useful to kind of illustrate the difference between like high level play and like pro level play. Like the difference between a good player and like a great player. The general theme here is not going to be like you're doing this wrong and you should be doing this instead. But once you get to this level of play, it's more like what you did was okay, but there was an even better option available that you might have missed. If anyone plays chess at like high elo, it's sort of like when the chess computer evaluates moves. Rather than saying like that was a good move and that was a bad move, it'll be like that move was like 98% perfect versus there was another move that was like 100% perfect. Sometimes a move can be fine and not an active mistake, but it's not technically optimal. So that's kind of the theme here. Anyway, before we get started, please remember to hit that subscribe button and let's get into the video. So, there's going to be a little bit of chat interactivity on this one. I'm going to set up some examples and ask some questions for chat. So, I'm going to show you guys a situation here, and I'm going to show what a good player would do in this situation. And then I'm going to ask chat to spot the even better option that the good player might have missed. So, here is the situation. That. So, you block the EXDP from Cammy. And I'm going to show you what, like, a good player would do. Like, a player who's, like, I don't know, let's say, like, 17, 1800 MR in this situation. There we go. First try. And that's pretty good. So I, as the jury player, I identified that I had enough resources to kill, and I executed that plan. But what was the better option available to me here, chat? Time for you guys to shine. DI and kill without level 1. If I try and DI after this combo, it's entirely possible that my opponent could wake up level 1, and we don't want that. And also, this doesn't kill. We can't see that? Wait, you guys... Oh. Alright, so now you guys have full access to all of the resources, and you can't say that my face was hiding the truth. So let's do this again, now that I'm right in the middle of the screen. Like, a decent player will kill here with super. And that is fine. That's not a misplay. That's fine. But a, like, world-class player will notice that if they finish this combo without super, it leaves the opponent alive with a pixel. And jury, as a couple of people are now starting to piece together in chat, has this move. This move is a projectile. And Cammy only has 1 bar of super. She doesn't have stocks, she doesn't need stocks. This is still a projectile, even uncharged. So, the point that I was trying to get across before we had this whole issue with the webcam being in the way was that there was actually a guaranteed win condition here that also did not require jury to spend any super. You can actually go for the max damage combo, not spend super, and then get a guaranteed chip out afterwards, which looks like this. That. So there was a guaranteed win condition, there was a checkmate that could have saved you a bar of super. And now, before you say, okay, well that's all well and good for jury, but doesn't this sort of advice only apply to projectile characters? And the answer is actually no. There's a similar option that you can use even if you don't have a meaty projectile, and that is a safe jump. I'm going to use another example of the same thing here. I'm actually going to use Aki for this example, but don't worry before you say, doesn't Aki have a fireball? I'm not going to use Aki's fireball for this. Let's look at this with the same example. Let's use the same exact example right here. So, if you look at Aki, it's basically the same situation. The combo doesn't quite kill, but Aki is one of quite a few characters in this game who has access to a safe jump after a common combo ender. So with Aki, if I do something like this, even though the combo doesn't kill, that's a checkmate. There is absolutely nothing that Cammy can do about that. So if they try and wake up level 1 here in the same situation, even without a meaty projectile, you still get a guaranteed KO. So it's both of these situations are very useful things to know, and they're the kind of micro optimizations that are very prevalent at high level play. It's also worth mentioning just before we move on that this situation requires knowledge of your opponent's character as well. Quite a few characters in this game do not have invincible level 2s. So Ken's level 1, it loses to projectiles, and Ken's level 2 is not invincible, and that means that the meaty fireball or safe jump chip out that I just showed off will work against Ken even if he has like 2.9 bars of super. So it's about situational awareness and also about character knowledge. You have to pay attention to what character your opponent is using. Okay, so with that in mind, I'm going to move on to number 2. In the same vein as the previous one, we're going to be talking about identifying hard to spot win conditions. So I'm going to show you another situation. Okay, so here's example number 2 for today's lesson. Very similar to the previous one. Cammy just EXDP'd me. In this current situation, what is the optimal play here, chat? Go. Spend everything. Panic and throw. Correct. This is actually optimal. That's actually max damage. Well done. So for this one, I'm gonna kind of go through 3 examples here, and these are gonna try and apply to like what I think different levels of play will do. So here's example number 1. So this is the first example. Burning yourself out and throwing all of your resources at this combo, and it nearly kills, but not quite. And this also leaves you in kind of an awkward situation afterwards. You do still have corner control, but you are now in burnout, and you've still got a good chance of winning, but it's a little bit awkward. But that's the kind of decision making right there that I would usually see at like somewhere between like the 13 to 1600 MR level. So that's example number 1. Example number 2 is this. Something like that. Now this is a much better option, what I've just done there. So I only used 1 drive rush cancel rather than 2. I lost a tiny bit of damage on the combo, but in exchange I now have a huge life lead, I have a really strong drive advantage, and my chances of winning here are very good. Like, this is not a misplay. Again, this is the kind of decision making you would usually see from, say, I don't know, 1800 MR players in this situation. This is kind of the most straightforward response to this kind of interaction. Like that. That's pretty good, but it's not actually optimal. The truth is, what you may not have noticed is that actually the round is over the moment that you block this EXDP. And that is noticing Cammy's drive. So, when Cammy does this EXDP, she started with 5 bars of drive, and the EXDP brings her down to 3 bars of drive, and that means that we can do this. We can punish with DI, do an incredibly short combo to stop the drive recovery, burn her out, and then it's checkmate. GG's smile. Shake my hand. Now, a couple people in chat did spot that win condition, that attacking the drive was more optimal than going for direct damage. And that's because I'm asking chat and I'm giving you guys like 30 seconds to think about the game state. But I think you guys need to remember that in a real match, in the heat of the moment, you need to identify all of the following conditions the moment that you block that EXDP. So you have to immediately notice that you have 3 bars of super, that your opponent has less than 1 bar of super, that your opponent has less than or equal to 3 bars of drive after blocking the DP, and that the post-stun combo is going to do enough damage to kill even if they block the DI, right? So you have to make a lot of decisions instantaneously about your meter, your drive, your opponent's meter, your opponent's drive, and damage calculations, and execute that all successfully. I mean, ideally, you should start planning that before you even block the DP, that's true. Like, that's part of it, is like preparing for that possibility. So, even still, you have to notice a lot of things in the heat of the moment. Street Fighter 6 is all about resource management. I think that combo right there is a good example of that situation. Okay, let's switch over from a offensive example to a defensive example for number 3. So, I think another thing that kind of divides high level and top level play is burnout defense. I'm Ryu. I'm burned out in the corner against Aki, which is a terrifying prospect. Let's say both of us have some super. Let's give each of us a bar. And let's say, as the Aki player, you do this. Okay? Now, here is what I think the kind of 1800 MR response to this situation is. That. So, a good player with good reactions will be able to react to DI cancels and interrupt with a super. That's the sort of simple answer. However, a top level player will do something slightly different. They will do this instead. Okay, so there's 2 important things at play here. So the first is that most top players learn and memorize which normals are real and which normals are fake when it comes to DI stuns. So for example, they will know that Aki's stand medium punch into DI does not do enough block stun to frame trap you, right? There is a big enough gap to throw in between. So there's a lot of homework to do here. There's a lot of memorization in this example. So the general rule in this game is that mediums into DI are throw interruptible, while heavies are not throw interruptible, but there are still a lot of exceptions to this rule. For example, for some reason, Dalsim's back medium kick is completely interruptible 1 frame gap. So the first level of this is a big memorization exercise. There are some mediums that are guaranteed DIs, and there are some heavies that are not guaranteed DIs. But the second thing to mention here, a lot of people might not actually understand why back throw is the better option here. Like, you might just say, well, back throw is meterless, so that's why it's the better option. Which is true to an extent, but it's not the whole answer. To answer this properly, we need to consider the situation after punishing the DI, rather than just the punish itself. So if I interrupt with super here, consider this situation after the super. I'm still in the corner as Ryu. I'm still in burnout as Ryu. I now have 1 less bar of super. In fact, I have 0 bars of super right now. If anything, me doing a level 1 here has actually doomed me. So even though it bought me a few seconds of life, against a character like Aki with such strong burnout pressure and high damage stun combos, the chance that she just hits you again and gets a guaranteed stun is very high. So unless this level 1 is going to kill, a lot of the time, it's almost suicidal to use it, even if it will beat the DI. On the other hand, if you back throw here, this situation is significantly better as the Ryu player. You gain corner control, which means you're no longer at risk of being stunned. And if you play carefully and cautiously and just kind of hold the corner, don't overextend, there's a good chance you can buy enough time to escape burnout. So the positional advantage of back throw is way more valuable than the extra damage of a wake up super. And that's why learning when you can interrupt with back throw versus when you can interrupt with super is so important. I guess Ken privilege also exists. There are a couple of characters in this game that have supers that side switch. So I guess if you're Ken, you can make a stronger argument that level 1 here is a good decision, because Ken gets out the corner with it. Most characters do not have that privilege. Anyway, moving on. So, number 4 is going to be another high-level defensive mind game that some of you might be aware of, but also the ways that top-level pro players will counter it, and that is DPOS, and how you can bait it. So, there's been lots of videos before about how DPOS works. I'm going to do a very quick rundown. Now, DPOS is very simple. If you block something like a normal into drive rush in neutral, if you are a character who has access to an invincible reversal, like Ryu, who has EXDP, you can input this EXDP and it will cover for both of these options. So there I input EXDP, but because crouch jab is a true block string, the DP doesn't come out. Right? But if the throw comes out, then I do get the DP, because it's not a true block string. It's very simple option select. It's used all the time at like high-ish level gameplay and top level gameplay. It's one of the reasons why I think having an EXDP in this game is very strong. But there is one thing that changes at top level gameplay, and I've actually got a really good example of this to show you from a real match. So we have Hibiki, who is one of the best Lily players in the world, up against Takedo. And I want to highlight this round real quick. So there we go. This is stage 1. Blink and you miss it. So right here, Hibiki does crouch fierce, drive rush cancel, and then tries to go for a command grab. And Takedo, being the strong player that he is, does DP option select. This is the exact same option select I just showed you. He does the EXDP here, which punishes the attempt to go for a command grab. Keep that in mind. Hibiki, he remembers this. So we're going to fast forward now to the next round. So it's the next round now. And Hibiki is now aware that Takedo is option selecting his DP. And this is what happens. And there you go. So Hibiki knows that crouch fierce into drive rush cancel, because this is a heavy and not a medium, crouch fierce does enough block stun that if you drive rush cancel and then cancel the drive rush into block, you actually have enough time of high block stun normals to block the EXDP. And this is not exclusive to Lily. Any character with a special cancelable heavy that does a lot of block stun can do this. So most characters in the game have something similar they can do here. And I think this is a good example of the ways that like common option selects can be counterplayed, but only if you have faith in your opponent's skill. Like doing a drive rush cancel into block against a weaker player is stupid, because they will just be like, bro, why did you spend 3 bars of drive to put yourself -2? This is an example of like a high level mind game. This DP bait would only work if you're confident that your opponent is doing DPOS. The point again here, I want to make clear, this is not a video about tech, right? The point here is not really to teach you guys how to do DPOS or how to counter DPOS. The point here is more the ways that this game evolves as you get higher up the skill chain, where it'll be like low-level players don't even know what DPOS is, mid-level players will start using DPOS, and top-level players will start hard countering the DPOS with things like heavy into drive rush into block. Alright, so my final example here, number 5, and this is the one that I think personally is the most important, and probably the most important skill for this entire game: drive management. And when I say drive management, a lot of people think that means managing your own drive gauge. But drive management is not about managing your own drive gauge exclusively. It's also about managing your opponent's drive gauge. And I think that's the really important distinction. So I am going to show you guys another example of the player that I think is the best practitioner of this in the world right now. Nephew. I'm going to glaze Nephew for a minute. So I want to show you guys a round of Nephew gameplay and why I think this is a perfect example of drive control. So this is Nephew against Ending Walker from Cream City Convergence last year.
Staying solid where it could have been a drive impact here from Ending Walker or anything. Oh, Ending Walker does have bar at the bottom.
I love the attempt, just kind of like slowly walking up and going in for the toes here. Here we go, Super 1 on Wake Up.
And the level 1 to get some distance with it. Dash, drive, rush, overhead lands. Blessings from above.
Oh, that was close.
No, the only fireball just to wait the perfect area, Wake Up.
Nice, yep, the side switch coming in from the grab as well. And ODDP, Nephew does have that.
I'll let this play out.
Again, he can risk it.
And then we'll talk about it afterwards.
Kind of spend things out. Nice, and again, for the dive pick on the attempt to try to see if he's going to anti-air.
All right, question for chat. After Ending Walker went below 3 bars of drive gauge the first time, how many times did he manage to get back over 3 bars of drive gauge? Correct. 0. This entire round was perfect drive control, and it starts right here. So Ending Walker actually gets the opening hit. I just want to highlight this in slow motion. So Ending Walker gets the opening hit, but it costs him a decent amount of drive. Nephew decides to take a calculated risk here and go for Wake Up level 1. Even though Nephew has full drive, he could have gone for Wake Up EXDP here, but he understands that the Wake Up level 1 is actually the better play if you're confident. So even though he had plenty of drive to DP, he does Wake Up level 1 here, and the advantage of Wake Up level 1 is that does drive gauge damage. Even if it's only half a bar, Jury also gets Oki after her level 1. So now pay attention to Ending Walker's drive. It's stuck at 2. He gets hit by the overhead. It's just regenerating. He's just about to get over 3 bars of drive. And so this is why, again, Nephew feels the need to suppress it. I should mention that 3 bars of drive is a really important threshold because that's where you can start to do drive rush cancels. So Nephew tries to force an interaction with the EX Fireball, which works, and he baits out the EX DP, which once again puts Ending Walker in a very awkward drive position. He's now down to 1 bar. He gets the perfect parry, but it doesn't do a whole lot. Still doesn't have much drive. Nephew realizes that he needs to bust out to stop the drive from regenerating.
Nephew does have that life lead too, because again, he can risk it. He has enough resources to kind of...
Nephew nearly burns out, baits the anti-air, and then kills. And I think this round is like a perfect example of managing your opponent's drive. He saw the opportunity to attack the drive gauge with a level 1 on Wake Up, and then from that point forward, he did not let Ending Walker get past 3 bars of drive for the entire round from the first interaction. Again, this is another example of what I want to talk about, which is like good players at like 17, 1800 MR will start to get a good feel for managing their own drive gauge, but world-class players like Nephew, like Ending Walker, are not just managing their own drive gauge, they're also managing their opponent's drive gauge. And that's a really difficult skill to do. Anyway, so hopefully this video wasn't too abstract. The point here of these tips is not really to teach you tech, as I said. It's more to give you examples of how the decision making, how the mind games, and how the situational awareness differs as you reach the really high levels of play in this game. So hopefully that was useful. I don't know. Let me know if this was too abstract or something. I don't know. Let me know if this was useful, and I will see you guys all in the next video.